Hi, this is Gemma Smith with All Things Real Estate, and this month I am celebrating Black History Month, and I have the pleasure and privilege to showcase few individuals and that I absolutely admire, respect, and have gotten to know over the years. So my first guest is Renee Chantler. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Renee and I originally met about 2001 or so when I got my broker's license. I knew at that time I needed to have 3 advisors, a DRE compliance officer, a CPA, and an attorney. And I was recommended to Renee, and she became my in-house attorney back then when I ran my own brokerages. And throughout, since 2001, we have continued to be not only colleagues and business partners, but also personal close friends. So I consider you as part of my family, and getting to know you and your family so well, I am just so honored that you have accepted just to be on this interview show with me.
Well, I'm honored that you invited me, and I thank you. I echo everything you've said about the wonder that has been our personal and professional relationship ever since we met long ago.
Very good. Well, I want you to share with us so the audience could get to know you as much as I gotten to know you, as well as appreciate who you are as an African-American Black woman here in the United States, California especially. But tell us about your
Valley,
journey.
all of that stuff.
Tell us about your journey from Brooklyn, New York to Stanford University to being in the legal profession.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. As you mentioned, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. For those of you who are from New York, I was raised on the Bedford-Stuyvesant Crown Heights line, Nostrand and St. John's. For those of you who are not from New York, everybody from New York knows that it is all about the neighborhood that you come from. It was a quite modest working class and poor neighborhood. My parents were both Southerners who relocated during the Great Migration from their Southern homes in South Carolina, in the case of my father, and Alabama in the case of my mother. They met and married in New York and had me in 1961. That's a long time ago. It'll be 60 years in just a few months. I had, a regular old urban childhood until my parents split up when I was about 12. But it was a working class neighborhood. At the time, it was about 99% Black. The only exposure I had outside of the Black community was on 2 fronts. First, beginning 7th grade, I had been admitted to and began attending Hunter College High School in Manhattan. For those who don't know, Hunter College High School is one of the public schools that is admission by testing and recommendation. Back then, I had been recommended by my 6th grade teachers. I sat for a test. I did well enough there, had an interview, and next thing I know, I'm traveling on the train every day, 5 days a week, to Manhattan to go to high school, well, first middle school, all the way through high school and graduation. I graduated after the 11th grade, given the nature of the school, in 1978. And just a fun fact about Hunter, I was the class behind the now Honorable Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Elena Kagan. I knew Elena back in the day. I have stories, but I'm not allowed to share those in case I ever have to appear in front of her someday. But she had predicted back then that she would be on the United States Supreme Court, and here we are. I came to California in '78 to begin undergraduate at Stanford. At the time I arrived, I was pretty sure I was going to be a math major. I loved mathematics. It was my best subject. I had visions of myself becoming a math teacher when it was all over. And I was just 17 years old. I turned 17 the week before I came. I got here and I discovered several things. First of all, I discovered that unlike everything I thought I knew about California, that Northern California was freezing cold at night. I was not ready. The second thing that I discovered was that I did not like calculus at 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week. Of course, like many young people, this is the farthest I'd ever been away from home or relatives, and it was just inconsistent with where I was. And then I finally realized I also like people. And math is one of those solitary kinds of things when you're in academia. So eventually I decided to become a psychology major with a minor in sociology and a lot of emphasis, although they didn't have the degree at the time, in African American psychology in particular. I graduated in 1982 with my bachelor's degree in psychology. While I was in school, I met my first husband and father of all of my children, who got his degree in sociology, but was one of the first patented computer scientists here in the Bay Area. And we actually, Zoom is a platform that is the current iteration of something that originally began when he worked on it in the 1980s after he graduated. Um, Suffice it to say, I have 3 children. When I first graduated from Stanford, I had originally said I'm going to be a psychologist. And I had an epiphany a few months before graduation. At the time I was 20, and I had a vision of myself trying to give advice to my grandmother, who was at that time 80 years old. And I realized the absurdity of anyone at the age of 20 attempting to give life advice on any subject to anyone in that age group. And so I wasn't sure what I was going to do afterward. And then, you know, the universe intervened and I had my first daughter, Tanisha, who's a filmmaker now. And I was going to go into computer science and had, and some offers, and got very politically involved in East Palo Alto, where I have lived since 1980. East Palo Alto was not a city at that time, and there was a very large and organized community effort driven, by a number of organizations, including a number of African Americans who had attended or taught at Stanford to make us a city. And I got very, very involved in the politics of that, working on that at that time on behalf of tenants. Ended up, when we became a city, I joined the rent stabilization board, worked with others to draft the first rent stabilization ordinance we have here. And that's when I first started finding any interest in law. When I graduated and came to college and graduated, I was like, there were 2 things I never wanted to be. I didn't want to be a doctor and I didn't want to be a lawyer. Never crossed my mind that this was a path I would take. Fast forward, I had, other children. Was involved here with East Palo Alto and its efforts, including at one time working as one of its department heads in rent stabilization. And I decided that I wanted to work on community economic development. I was very committed to attempting to establish equity and find ways to establish equity in working class communities of color, Black and Latino in particular. And so I made the decision that I was going to go to business school in order to learn how to arbitrage, which is, for those who don't know, that's the buying and selling of money. And arbitrage is a vehicle through which people earn money. And I was going to be an arbitrager that was community focused as opposed to focusing on just getting filthy wealthy. And so I applied to business school. And I applied to Stanford and I applied to Berkeley because at that time I was a young mother and I didn't want to get my kids and uproot them and everything. And while I was in the process of, marshaling those applications, someone pointed out to me that you could actually get a law degree in 2 years instead of 3 if you did it as a JD MBA. And so I thought, okay, this is a pretty good deal. By that point, I had been working with the city attorney and I'd been doing other things, legislative work in Sacramento as an advocate. And I said, okay, this sounds like a good deal. So I, in fact, ultimately ended up accepting an offer from Stanford to go into their JD MBA program because I wanted to graduate with my business school class because that's what prompted all this was business school. I decided to start the law degree first because that would allow me to finish the business part of it at the time that I normally would. And suffice it to say, I went to law school and realized I really liked it, that I found it intellectually challenging. I found it fun. I was with incredible people from all walks of life and all prior professions. For example, one of my classmates in law school had been a Broadway actor on Cats before he decided that he wanted to, get the law degree so that he could work on the legal side of theater production and all sorts of stuff. We had a woman that was getting her medical degree at the same time that she was
Wow.
getting her law degree. And I did not envy her, but she's to this day is now doing both of them. Um, so I ultimately never went to business school. I just never went over across the campus and started my business school degree. Instead, I ended up graduating with my law degree in 1991, and I managed to sneak in my third child in the middle of all that.
Wow.
Um, in Mandisa, and did political things while I was in law school, such as, we worked, myself and a number of other women, and one man, who we call an honorary woman of color because that's how committed he was. We put on the nation's first Women of Color in the Law conference right before I had my third child. And I've always been political in that sense. So I graduated from law school and I just began a traditional law career. I started out with a boutique law firm focusing on redevelopment law, community development law, the area of interest that I still had. I ended up, for personal reasons related to the end of my marriage, um, ended up switching and becoming a big firm lawyer about 4 years into my career, and did litigation, still did some real estate, but not as much, mostly focusing on the representation of businesses, large businesses in securities and in insurance and in business contracts. Um, I realized after a while I wasn't very happy with that. I never did lose the sense that I wanted to do something that was focused on the community. And while I worked for a wonderful law firm, the old Heller, Erman, Wine, and McAuliffe, that was very committed to pro bono work, I wanted to make serving the community more of a center to what I was doing. So I left to take a position that had just been created, where I was the executive director of the East Palo Alto, then East Palo Alto Community Law Project here in East Palo Alto. That position was unique because it was a dual position, and the other part of the job was as an adjunct professor at Stanford Law School. And we worked with hundreds of students, teaching them not just law in the focus areas that we had, which were community types of law, family law, housing law, and community economic development, which was always exciting, but also helping them develop a sensibility and an understanding about the central nature of service as part of the law profession. Uh, Shortly after that, I left and went out on my own. I just burnt out. That happens. And I ended up becoming a litigation director, a consulting one, at the firm where I met you, Hema. Uh, and the rest is largely history. I mean, fast forward to today. I mean, I spent a decade with a very large firm as its West Coast Pro Bono Counsel, in which I got to train and manage hundreds of attorneys providing pro bono service in California and in Washington, and for a while also in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Phoenix, Arizona. Um, but again, as I got older, I realized, I missed more direct practice. And so I went back out on my own. What's now will be 5 years this year. I practice with my partner and my husband, Derek. He also does law focusing on real estate related issues, business issues. So today I am a one person of a 2-woman legal shop. We are a full service firm in the sense that we work with all types of clients, business clients, individual clients, entrepreneurs in particular, giving general advice. But we also have a very strong focus on real estate related litigation. Not just, court litigation, but also arbitrations and mediations as necessary. I also still do business litigation, general business disputes, unfair competition, beginning to dabble a little bit in privacy litigation as well. My husband practices in trust and estates. It does basically the transactional side of that, as well as doing quite a bit of representation of municipalities. He serves as a hearing officer in rent stabilized and low income housing jurisdictions, a number of them in the Bay Area here at this point. I have 3 adult children now, and 1 grandson, MJ.
You can't forget MJ.
We can't leave out MJ. My grandson is just now 13. He's a half a foot almost taller than his grandmother. He lives with me. We also have 2 fur babies, 2 King Charles Cavaliers named Tristan and Aurora. And I'm surprised they haven't come to the desk yet and introduced themselves, but they might. Other than that, I'm just a normal weirdo. I play video games in my spare time. I like to sew, I like to cook, I like to do all of those grandmotherly things. Also like to go out and dance from time to time, as Hema knows. I also like to talk to people and mentor people. Service is a central part of who I am. And so for me, a lot of happiness turns on when I'm having the opportunity to help someone, not just for pay, but also to help folks, particularly younger people in the law and younger Black attorneys in the law, especially, find that necessary balance between excellence, which is required for any lawyer, in my opinion, and giving back to and being part of the communities that we come from. So, speaking of which, we have office security just returned from their walk. So I'm doing this interview, guys. So that's a long answer to a short question, but that's my
No, absolutely. I'm so grateful because you have shared your history with all our folks here that I've known for the last, since 2000, for 20, well, yeah, since 2000 when we originally met. So I've gotten to know you for over 20 years. And then the short segment, which is about 5 to 10 minutes, you have shared what I have known for the last 20 years. And I thank you so much. And you are a phenomenal attorney, person, mother, grandmother, just all of it. But one resounding word that always has come out is community. You are so community focused and community driven, and you give unselfishly, not just to the community, but to everyone at whole. And like you said, your passion is to mentor and to educate and to counsel, especially young African-American Black lawyers going into the industry. So folks, if you are looking for a real estate attorney, litigator, business advisor, business advocate, Renee Chantler and her husband Derek have their own law firm. So I definitely, encourage you, and I will put their information on this video as well, but feel free to always PM me or reach out. I highly recommend her, but more importantly, showcasing her as the individual and valuable person that she is over all these years, that she has done so much for everyone at whole, and truly, truly a champion for cause. So thank you so much, Renee, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know the fur puppies are probably out there trying to, jump into the picture, but right now it's all about you, my friend. It's all about you.
Thank you, and I look forward to returning this favor someday, because you have inspired me because of the successes that you have shared. So I look forward to when it's my turn to interview you.
Very good.
And thank you very much for honoring me with this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care and happy Valentine.
Happy Valentine's to you.
See you later.
Well,
Take care. Love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.